You have seen what a disaster and a humanitarian crisis my beautiful island is in right now. So the question I keep getting day in and day out is, how do we help? What do we do? How can we fix this? And I've started to just kind of describe it in this way. There's 4 layers. The first layer, all of us being able to even hear from our family. It took 8 days for me to be able to get a phone call from my 81-year-old diabetic father to let me know that he was okay. There are still people that have not heard from family and friends. Think about that for a minute. It's been 10 days, and there are still people in our communities here, in our communities everywhere, in the nationwide, everywhere, that still have not heard. There are towns that bridges and roads have been washed out, that are completely incommunicated. And the response that we have been receiving on the island from this administration has been completely insufficient. Completely. And to the bright person who's over there at the White House, to make a statement such as there's a big ocean in the way, I mean, you don't have to be a geography major to know that and figure out that there are ways around all of this, and that the situation is absolutely insufficient and inappropriate. So I want to give you those layers I was talking about. Number 1, folks being able to hear from family and friends. There's still people who are not even there. Number 2, once we have contact with all of these folks, knowing, do they have food? Do they have enough water? Do they have medication? What is the condition of what they need? Number 3, what is the damage that they've had with their homes, with their cars? Do they have somewhere to be? Are they in a shelter? And then number 4 is, where do we go from here, and what is it going to look like? So what I want to ask you all to do is, we need to keep pushing. There have been some short-term solutions that have come up, and at this point, you know, I always say we take whatever we can get, but it doesn't mean that we take the pressure off. Number 1, the Jones Act was waived, but it's only for 10 days. 10 days. So if you don't know what the Jones Act is, Google it. Figure it out. Figure out why this is a conversation that's happening right now in terms of the situation in Puerto Rico and in many other places. Let's not forget about our brothers and sisters on the U.S. Virgin Islands either. Number 2, there's talk right now about what is the relief aid package looks like coming from D.C. to the island. We need as much help as we can get, and this is going to be a very long and costly recovery process. This is not something that's going to be resolved immediately, so we need to keep pressure on everyone in D.C. So if you have family members and friends that are in states that don't have the luxury of having a delegation like we do, with Senator Warren and Senator Markey and Congressman Neal and folks that are listening to us, please make sure that you tell people in other states to reach out to those folks, because we need the best relief aid package that Puerto Rico can get. Number 3, to this day, number 45 has still not committed specifically to rebuilding Puerto Rico. We're still focusing on rescue. We're still focusing on getting water to towns. We're still focusing on getting food to specific cities that have been incommunicated. There's still not big conversation about how do we rebuild Puerto Rico. And the bigger question is, who is it going to be rebuilt for? That's right. Who? Because right now, those of us who have the access and the privilege to be able to have some money, to be able to have a credit card, to be able to buy a plane ticket for our families that is a one-way ticket, not everyone has that privilege. So we don't know what that exodus is going to look like. We don't know what the numbers are going to be. There was a cruise ship that went to San Juan, and I believe it was Carnival Cruise Lines. They boarded 1,700 Puerto Ricans onto that cruise ship. And yes, absolutely applaud, but listen to this part. Families were separated, okay? Because not everyone could get on this cruise ship. People left on a one-way ticket. So when Puerto Rico is rebuilt, who is Puerto Rico going to be for? Is it going to be for 45's friends who are all investors? Hell no. Okay, so we need to keep the pressure on. It needs to be at all levels. I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to reach out to say, how can I help? Right now, when we're done here, we're still working on donation centers here in Holyoke, right? 413 Main Street, Holyoke. That's where Nueva Esperanza is. We've been collecting stuff there through our amazing colleague of mine, City Councilor Nelson Roman, who could not be here today because he's over there. We've been collecting things there since Hurricane Irma, okay? And we're in a completely different place right now. So if you have some time to spare, 413 Main Street, we're looking for help to sort, to pack boxes, to get things moving. It's going to be until 4 o'clock today, so make sure you do whatever you can. Keep an eye on social media. We're all getting the message as soon as we can and as best as we can. So thank you all for your support. I'm honored to be here with all these phenomenal, powerful women who you're going to hear from today. And just make sure that we do not forget that our Puerto Rican brothers and sisters need us. Thank you.
Thank you to Councilor Valentine for all of her information, her insight, and her powerful remarks. Our next speaker has a deep connection to our communities. She emphasizes education and knowledge of one another as a means of combating injustice. Please welcome former president of the Jewish Federation of Western Massachusetts, Susan Goldman.
I am honored to stand at the podium today with such impressive and committed women. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Clearly, those of us at this rally are not neutral. Though our life paths and our ages are different, we come together in solidarity on behalf of equality, respect, and human dignity. When any person is treated differently with different rules, access to quality education, competent health care, fair wages and criminal justice, respect and dignity are threatened. We saw violence in Charlottesville and have seen what feels like a regression this past year to where difference, not commonality, has not only been increasing, but seemingly sanctioned. All of us speaking this afternoon possess a collective communal memory of being treated as the other. As a Jew, though I have been personally fortunate, my people's collective memory and experience has been of discrimination, exile, and genocide. African Americans continue to be at the greatest risk of being targeted, of growing up in poverty, and of dying young. Additionally, they are overrepresented in our criminal justice system. President Trump has enabled white supremacists to assert and impose their prejudice toward African Americans, while structural inequality has reinvented mass incarceration as a modern form of slavery, a prison industrial complex that tears families and communities apart. This is an embarrassment to all of us in our United States of America of 2017. It is our responsibility to not let this continue and to provide equal treatment regardless of color. The civil rights movement of 50 years ago achieved great strides, but our proactivity against racism must gain full voice again, particularly in these times. My hope is that this rally will serve as a next step for people of all races, religions, and cultures to work loudly, hand in hand, building bridges between communities along the way. As Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said in 1963, few of us seem to realize how insidious, how radical and evil racism is. Few of us realize that racism is man's greatest threat. To man, the maximum of cruelty for a minimum of thinking. Yesterday was Yom Kippur, my holiest day, which we spend grappling with and struggling with our transgressions and inadequacies of the past year. Yom Kippur reminds us of the many ways in which our world remains broken. It is a time not only for reflection and atonement, but a time to recognize and address the challenges of the racial injustice and, in fact, all injustice around us. Let us work together to repair our world. As leaders of our communities, we must talk to each other and pledge to teach our children and our students about inequity, racism, injustice, and most importantly, about activism. Let us commit ourselves today, each one of us, to a kinder, more righteous, and compassionate world where no one, Black, Latino, Muslim, Jew, or anyone, will be seen as the other. We are strong today as we build the bridges between us. As we say in my tradition, may we go from strength to strength. Thank you, Shukran Jazilan, Toda Rabah.
Thank you, Susan, for your inspiration. Our next speaker is Kathleen Anderson. Kathleen's family has been in this nation for 50 generations. Kathleen is a powerful advocate for racial justice and human rights, and she has been working for change for the past 25 years. Please join me in welcoming Kathleen Anderson to the stage.
I'm so impressed that all of you have chosen to spend your time today in this action. I want us to remember this because I'm going to call upon all of us to make sure that we do an action every day, every week, every month, every 2 months, that will keep us on this path and motion moving forward to undo the kinds of injustice that has taken hold in this country over centuries. I was on a walking pilgrimage some years ago, retracing the history of the slave trade. I, along with several other people, walked 15,000 miles at a pace of 25 miles a day, from Leverett, Massachusetts to Cape Town, South Africa. When I returned, I found a book by Melodoma Somé that talked about how elders, if an elder in their community passed away in a location that was of distance from their home, the survivors had the responsibility to raise up the dead and walk the dead home. And so, not only symbolically, but spiritually, I and the group that I walked with did exactly that. It was on that pilgrimage that I learned about how white people had participated in undoing the racial injustice that had been put in place in this United States, and I was not aware of that. I've been educated in the U.S. system, good education, private school. But nowhere in my curriculum was there the truth about the ways that people had stood up in protest against injustice over centuries. And here we are again. Doing the same our task to provide the foundation to continue the work so that our great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren, whatever age you are, think about your great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. We have to make sure that we keep the momentum going. And we also have to take care of ourselves in the process because it's stressful and it's strenuous. And we sometimes won't be able to see the end in sight, but we have to believe that it's going to happen. I'm currently president of the Amherst NAACP, and one of our tasks for the coming year is to organize a community summit with the leadership of the different groups that you are part of, so that we can plan and strategize over the next 5 or 10 years the actions that we are going to take as a community in Western Massachusetts to make a difference for our next generation. So I want to thank you for showing up today. You did good. You did good. Thank you.
Our next speaker is one of the passionate voices in our region fighting tirelessly for social justice. She is an advocate for the rights of each person who lives in our communities. Please join me in welcoming Yvette Hernandez to the stage.
Well, I am trying to, as many of you that do know me, trying to put it together. I just recently lost a very close friend that you shortly will hear about. I have lots of family in Puerto Rico, being born and raised there. And it's been one hit after another. And seeing all of you here brings me great, great joy, because it shows that there are good people out there, that even in the dark moments when I'm like, you know, there's so much dark clouds around me, that there's still light, that there's still people that do care, that there's still people that do see that we are one, that we know that there's no justice without racial justice, that there's no justice without immigrant justice, that immigrants are the ones that move the economy here, that we need to ensure that we protect each other and love one another and learn from each other, that there is no justice without climate justice. Locally, my kids suffer from asthma, and now look at globally what's happening in Puerto Rico, that there is no justice without workers' rights and workers' justice. That we need to ensure and protect and bring more organized labor, that we need to make sure that every single one of us are protected from unionizing, from collective bargaining, because guess what? This Latina here is the one that's gonna hurt more when there is no union, when there's no racial justice, when there's no economic justice, when there's no climate justice, okay? And this is all of us. It will affect all of us, our future generations. Okay, and so we need to continue to unite. This is beautiful. I want to say thank you to the local leaders that are here, to the mayor of Holyoke, to the councils. I listen to my hat goes down to them. I praise them, because not everybody is on the same page. And these are the people that we need to educate, and these are the people that with love and courage we need to bring them an understanding that this is hurting us, okay? And this is done for one reason and one reason only, and this is the 1% and 2% putting us against each other, and enough is enough. I say enough. Okay? That when our children start migrating from Puerto Rico, we are going to be able to educate them and protect them and make sure that they don't go through our foster care system and make sure that they don't go through our criminal justice system. And I'll leave you with those thoughts. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to Yvette for her passion. So I want to take a break from the speaking program to talk to you about something that so many of us up here are passionate about, and that's the Safe Communities Act. The Safe Communities Act is important because it focuses resources on our local needs, not deportation. Upholds constitutional rights, and it upholds due process. The Safe Communities Act bars state support for any Muslim registry, and it strengthens our communities. The Safe Communities Act does not break the law. It does not jeopardize federal funding or interfere with law enforcement in any way. I hope that you will all do all that you can to make sure that this important bill gets out of committee. That means calling. That means calling every day. That means writing. That means emailing. That means talking to each other about why this legislation is important and spreading the facts about this legislation and not the lies. If you want more information about the Safe Communities Act, Mira, who is here today, who's traveled from Boston, has set up a text number. You can take out your phones.
Right now.
Do it now. And you can text to 52886. SAFE, M-A, like Massachusetts.
One word.
To 52886. Raise your hand if you've got it. It's important. Our next speaker is the founder and director of Critical Connections. Critical Connections is a nonprofit here in the Valley that provides opportunities for dialogue around issues related to Muslim communities. Please join me in welcoming Malaka Samdani to the March for Racial Justice.
Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum, Western Massachusetts. Thank you all so much for being here, and I'd also like to once again thank Alicia Fleming, Jackie Neiman, Lindsay Sabadosa, and all of the amazing organizers who brought us all together to keep the momentum going. I stand before you today as a Muslim, as an immigrant, as a person of color, and as a woman. But most of all, I stand before you as an American. As an American, it is my patriotic duty to call out systemic racism, which prevents our country from achieving its ideals of justice and liberty for all. It is unpatriotic to remain silent in the face of structural oppression that marginalizes the African American community, the Muslim community, the LGBTQIA community, the immigrant and undocumented community, the refugee communities, and all other targeted communities. They tell us that it is disrespecting the American flag to kneel during NFL games. What is disrespectful to the American flag is that 3.5 million fellow Americans are treated like second-class citizens in Puerto Rico. What is disrespectful to the American flag is that young black men are 21 times more likely to be killed by police than their white counterparts. What is members of the transgender community are barred from serving their country through military service. What is disrespectful to the American flag is that a Muslim woman cannot wear the hijab and feel safe walking the streets of America. And what is disrespectful to the American flag is that families are being torn apart by draconian deportation orders. What is disrespectful to the American flag is there is a man in the White House who criticizes football players for peaceful protest, but downplays the violence perpetrated by white supremacists. Dear friends, when we have a White House and an administration that is actively seeking to divide us, it is time to take matters into our own hands. We have the power to harness our own potential to transform ourselves and our communities. We have the power to engage with local school officials and tell them that it's not enough to celebrate Black History Month. That we need to have deeper and more honest conversations about the roots of racism in U.S. history. We have the power to engage. We have the power to engage with our local police officials and demand better community-oriented policing and build trust between our minority communities and the police. We have the power to engage with our local elected officials and demand that they pass the Safe Communities Act. I'd like to end with a quote from my president, Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person, if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shanique Spaulding. And she spent the last 5 years dedicating herself to organizing around women's social and racial justice issues. So please join me in welcoming Shanique.
Together. It is so wonderful to be here. I am so excited. I'm so moved. I want to thank all my brothers, sisters, allies, and friends who have marched with us today. I want to thank you for marching, for fighting for racial justice, but mostly I want to thank you for marching for people like me, young, Black, and an immigrant. Like Alicia said, my name is Shanique Spaulding, and I'm the Western Mass Organizer for Planned Parenthood Advocacy Fund. Every day I work in our neighborhoods to help build the people power we need to protect our rights and build strong, healthy, thriving communities. By marching with you today and looking out at all you beautiful people, I know we are all on the same page. We share the belief that access to quality health care is a fundamental right for all people. It's not just for the rich, but it's for the poor too. It's health care for all. Regardless of race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, or immigration status. We share the belief that we can make social justice, economic justice, racial justice, and reproductive justice a reality for each and every one of our communities. But especially for our Black and brown communities, too many people of color face overwhelming lack of access to health care and health education. And we all live in the shadows of this nation's institutionalized racism. That is why I work and stand for Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood stands for us. Whether it's reproductive justice, economic or racial justice, they understand that social and political structures seek to destroy our communities and break our freedoms. Planned Parenthood have long since believed that every person must be able to decide not only if and when to parent and the conditions of giving birth, but they must be able to parent their children in safe and healthy communities without fear from others or from the government. Planned Parenthood is committed to working with allies across progressive movements to break down structural barriers to health care, protect fundamental rights, and build a just system that works for everyone. That's why we join you in calling for an end to discriminatory funding for abortion care, advocating for paid family medical leave for every worker, access to contraceptives, fighting to keep immigrant families together, and taking a stand against police brutality in all its forms. Because we can't shatter glass ceilings, build up people, bring aid to Puerto Rico, and all the things that we hold signs for today without working. We can't build better tomorrows without working. Marching isn't enough. I am not enough. You are not enough. We have to come together, build on this march's energy, and roll up our sleeves to work. Because together, we can transform our world from one divided by disparities and discrimination to a world united by health, equity, and equality. As my Latinos would say, pa'lante.
I'm sorry. I was so distracted by the beauty of all of you here that there was a really important piece that I forgot. So as I was saying about how can you help, okay? Here's a very concrete way. So listen up. Freedom Credit Union has 13 branches in Massachusetts. You can go to any of those branches and you can make a donation and say that it's for the Puerto Rico Relief Fund, okay? This is the initiative that's coming from Western Mass. It's a group called Western Mass United for Puerto Rico. It's a coalition between Holyoke, Springfield, Westfield, and area leaders, community organizers, activists, religious folks. Everyone's coming together and saying, if you can't go and help sort and pack boxes, and you can make a monetary donation, please do that. So again, Freedom Credit Union, you can go to any of their branches and go to their website so you can get the locations, and then it's called the Puerto Rico Relief Fund. What we will do is when that money is gathered, and as of yesterday or 2 days ago, the balance was up to almost $11,000. And so anything we can do to represent Western Mass and how we care about what's going on, I push you to do that. So the plan is, because a lot of people want to know, where's the money going to go? How's it going to get to the people in Puerto Rico? What we are doing is we are connecting with our people that are in Puerto Rico right now doing the groundwork. I'm wearing this shirt today because I'm a proud alum from the University of Puerto Rico. And my best friend from when I was in college there, who I mean, we've been friends at this point for about 20 years, is actually one of the executive assistants of San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulín. You've heard about her a little bit, right? You know, the powerful woman that 45 went after yesterday morning. And so we're working with the connections that we have in Puerto Rico so that we can make sure that this money goes to the people and not to administrative overhead and not to just some big pocket where we don't even know where that goes. So if you want to be a part of this monetary-wise, please do that. It was something that really important that I needed to tell you, and I just completely got distracted. So I wanted to do that. So thank you to Alicia for allowing me to give this update to you, and I'll pass it back to her for our last speaker. Thank you.
Thanks again to Josie. Our final speaker is the lead organizer for Neighbor to Neighbor's Holyoke chapter, currently working on criminal justice reform, climate justice, and immigration issues. Please join me in welcoming Jacqueline Velez to the stage.
Hello, beautiful people. to do can be done alone.
That's right.
I had the honor to work alongside Jafet Robles. His passing was a huge, devastating loss for our community, his family, friends, and comrades. Community organizing was his job, but for him, it was so much more than that. He felt it was his duty. It was his mission to mobilize and raise the awareness and consciousness of his people, our people, so that we may be at the tables where decisions are being made about us.
That's right.
I saw firsthand that he had a deep love for his people and wanted to lift them up to fight. Jafet understood four main things. Jafet understood that the only way to achieve change, the changes we desperately need, the oppressed need to be at the forefront. Number two, he understood racism was the root cause of the condition of our communities and part of the structure of every broken system we need to fix, including the public school system, criminal justice, and immigration systems. Racism is the cause of the division amongst us. Number three, he understood we need to be united to achieve fixing those systems by working together. And number four, lastly and most importantly, none of this could be done without love. If you don't have the skill set, that can be learned. But without love for our people and love for our communities, this is not possible. Our children will inherit this earth. We cannot leave it to them as it is. We have to do better, be better, because our children deserve better. We deserve better. I commit to continue the fight my brother Jafet so valiantly fought. We will have a lobby day in Jafet's name in his honor on Tuesday, November 14th to end mass incarceration, to end mandatory minimums, to end probation and parole fees. Please get in touch with Neighbor to Neighbor staff and members in order to get involved and participate in this day. This is what we will start to do to live his legacy, live it on. In my brother's words, pa'lante mi gente, and I'll leave you with this. When we're gone, what do you want to be remembered for? Everybody here knows that we have so many battles to fight. We know that. But we know that when we come together like this, from our different backgrounds and our different neighborhoods, from our different families, when we bring each other together, when we unite, we know that we can fight those battles. We know that if we persist, we can win. I don't know what brought you all here, the individual personal reasons that you came today. But I know that if you're here, you're a warrior in the fight for fairness and for equality and for freedom. I hope that this today has made you feel a little more empowered to carry on that fight and to make your voices heard. Keep standing up, keep staying involved, and keep speaking out, and keep fighting back. I know that all of the women who have spoken, thank you all for being here today, and I personally, from me, thank you for being here today.
El pueblo. pueblo.